Censoring the flex turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and win.
Hey, everybody. I know I was on a long break, and I apologize for that, but I am back now. I missed you, if it makes you feel any better. I missed you. Donovan missed you. Even the cats missed you. So I hope that makes up for a little bit, just a little bit. But the good news is we're back with a bang. We have congressional candidates that are coming on one after the other. We have yet again a packed Republican primary for 2022 Congress. It's going to be interesting. Let's just say, so you guys know I ran in 2020. I don't support anyone yet in the primary. Once I have a chance to interview everybody and, look over their responses and listen to you guys, I'll let you know who, if anyone, I'll be voting for. You can see behind me, tonight's guest is Mr. Lucas, Martin Lucas. We're going to have him on in just a moment, and he will introduce himself and tell you who he is, why he's running for United States Congress, man. It's a huge one. I learned firsthand in 2020 that it's a big deal. Aside from that, there's a huge name recognition thing that has to be overcome in the Republican primary. We dealt with it last time. I'll make sure I get his thoughts on that. But in the meantime, a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to corrupt this feed with all the happenings in the meantime. But as you guys know, Liz, my wife, is running for LaPorte County Commissioner. When you pull that Republican ballot, make sure you mark her name. Got to. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on and give him an opportunity full screen to tell you who he is, why he's running, and then we'll hit him with the rapid fire questions because we got some good ones. There he is. Mr. Lucas, how are you tonight, man?
I'm good. Good. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'm gonna throw you up full screen and give you a few minutes. Introduce yourself. Tell people why you're running, why this, why 2022, all the fun stuff. There you go. Take it away. Whoops, wrong one. My bad.
That's okay. All right. My name is Martin Lucas. I was originally born and raised in Chicago on the South Side. For those of you familiar with Chicago, it would be the South Shore, South Chicago neighborhoods. I graduated from Mount Carmel High School. I then went on to graduate from DePaul University, where I received a Bachelor's of Science in Finance. So if we fast forward now, 17 years ago, my wife and daughter and myself, we moved to Schererville, Indiana. So I'm very happy we made the move. I consider myself a Hoosier, and I really in Indiana. When we first moved in, then we enrolled our daughter at St. Michael's School, which she has since graduated from, out in Schererville. Still very involved with the parish. I'm a member of the finance committee. I'm a Eucharistic minister. I'm a member of the Knights. And I also help out the school in open houses and for financial aid. And part of being a representative, I think you should educate the people. Very happy as far as this past year went on with the choice scholarships. Just to give an example, a year ago, a family of four would have less than $40,000 in order to qualify. This year, it's $147,000. So the people who had objections, they were attending a public school and it was too expensive to a Catholic school or a private school, those objections have somewhat gone away because of the good job the state of Indiana has done is in increasing those thresholds. I also went back to school, and in 2019, I graduated from Purdue Northwest with an master's in business administration. Presently, I work for IBM. And at IBM, what I do is I'm a consultant on the AT&T account with software delivery. So what that means is basically AT&T executives or product managers would come to me with an idea that, let's say, they want to add features or they would like to extend the footprint of a product where they could sell it. And it's my job then to take that idea, and then I work with IBM software engineers, software developers, application specialists, etc. And it's our job then to take that concept and idea from AT&T and actually turn it into a program that this concept can be configured, ordered, billed, and priced correctly. So that's kind of an overview of my background. So some people ask, well, with that type of background, why do you want to get in politics? So to answer that question, I want to say that I'm a concerned American citizen. I love the United States. The United States is based on democracy and capitalism. And those two institutions are not as strong as they should be. And I think much of that has to do with what's going on in Washington. So, for instance, if you were to ask people, what do you think of politicians? Just general statement, what do you think? Most people would probably say, oh, they're self-serving, all talk, little action, they're all the same. It's that last phrase, they're all the same. That's what made me get into politics. So I'm in favor of term limits. We're not all the same. I'm in favor of term limits, 2 terms, and that's it. I'm not here to be a career politician. Secondly, a lifetime ban on myself and all my family members from ever becoming. I'm not in this for any personal gain. Third, there's way too much money in politics. And if you go to my website at www.votelucas, votelucas.com, and you go and you would click on the donation tab, the donation tab would tell you, I want you to decide the largest amount of money you can donate. Then I want you to donate that money to a charity or a nonprofit. Give it to the poor and less fortunate. They're the ones that really need the money, not the politicians. Now, I'm running on a platform from a voter's perspective. So term limits, ban on lobbyists, and control on the amount of money in Washington. I can sum up the Washington perspective in 5 words. Money, money, and more money. It's unbelievable the amount of money that the politicians spend. And may I add, it's not their money they're spending. Just to give you an example, the national debt presently stands at over $30 trillion. Now, I don't think people realize how much $30 trillion is. So I'm going to put it in perspective with time. Most people can relate to how quick 1 second is. So if we were able to go back 30 trillion seconds, and we were to go back in time, we would go back 950,000 years, not days, weeks, or months, years. So we're going all the way back in prehistoric times. So the country is going further in debt. Yet if you look at the politicians, you take a look at their net worth when they enter office, and then each year that they're in office, their net worth continually gets higher and higher. And the longer a career politician is in, his net worth goes up exponentially. So something is there, the fact that the country is going deeper and deeper in debt, yet the career politicians, their net worth continues to increase. Now, what's interesting is, as I previously said, if you ask people, what do you think about politicians? And they would tell you not very positive responses. Yet the incumbent is reelected at over a 90% rate. Something is wrong there. So how is it that incumbent that people in general don't like always seems to get reelected?
That's a great question. So I got some questions for you. Okay.
Sure.
You've covered your general. What's that?
The answer is money and neighbor.
Of course, absolutely. Unfortunately, money plays such a huge part in politics, and there's not much that the average person can do about it other than become vocal, get involved, start changing things locally, and work your way up. But moving away from the deeper subjects for a moment, I have a list of questions that you answered. You know what your platform generally is, why you kind of started getting into politics. I have some more lighthearted questions that are not going to make a lot of sense from a political perspective, but this is a chance for people to get to know you as a person. So they're rapid fire, just the first thing that you think of. Are you ready?
Blue, the color blue.
Okay,
no,
good enough. Okay, here we go. How do you like your steak?
Medium well.
Oh my God, man! See, I liked you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
Dogs, okay. Dunkin', Munster Donuts, or another place entirely?
Munster Donuts.
Okay, all right, good man. All right, favorites?
In fact, that's what they serve on Donut Sunday at St. Michael's.
Okay, all right, good. My wife will be very pleased to hear that. She is a Munster native. What's your favorite sport?
Probably professional sports, it would be baseball, but I do play handball. Very few people play handball, but I'm an avid handball player. Yeah,
handball. You know what? Handball seemed to be much bigger when I was younger. I don't really hear much about it anymore, except for lawyers that go, practice and play. But in general, the general public doesn't seem to really follow handball that much.
Yeah, it would be a group of guys who would probably play often, much more often. Like racquetball players, there's probably more players, but they don't play as often. And what I like about it is ambidexterity.
There you go.
That's what.
What's your favorite burger joint?
Burger joint?
Yeah. First, do you like burgers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Favorite place?
Burger joint. I would go with Portillo's, actually. I really like Portillo's. The beef sandwich is good. You can't get a bad meal at Portillo's. Burgers are good. Hot dogs are good. The beef sandwiches are good.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay. What is your idea of an ideal Saturday afternoon?
Saturday afternoon ideal would be spending with my family. I have a daughter in high school who plays volleyball, so probably going to watch my wife and daughter play volleyball. But she also runs track, watching the whole family being together. That would be the ideal. Okay. All right. Good answer.
Pepsi or Coke?
I would say Pepsi.
Okay. Bears or Colts?
I'm originally from Chicago.
It's on the list. I knew, but it's on the list.
Everyone would say the Bears.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Here's an interesting question for you, and this one isn't really rapid fire. I'll give you a minute to think about it. What's your favorite thing about District 1?
Well, moving from Chicago into this area, you can get much more house for the dollar. The taxes are lower. If you just look at the difference between, and I don't mean this from a political sense, but in a way it is, the Democratic-controlled Illinois, they're in debt and across the board. The Indiana-controlled Republican state, we have a surplus. We're even giving refunds back this year. And like I had previously pointed out with the choice scholarships, how they've increased those dollar amounts significantly. But also what I like, I live in Cherville, and I tell people when I first moved in here, gasoline could go up to $20 a gallon for me, and I really hope it does not. But everything's in walking distance here. I have the shopping malls, I have the restaurants, and the people in general are pretty friendly. So
yeah.
Like I said, I
agree with you there. I agree with you there.
Who's your daddy?
So. Right. I actually was an over-the-road truck driver for about 10 years, and I could have lived anywhere. I had friends all across the country. I'm originally from Louisiana. I picked Northwest Indiana because of the thing you said there. The Republican control makes it very affordable compared to surrounding areas, and the people are just they're very, very friendly. There are many people up here that are friendlier than the deep South that that I'm from, and I just love it. Okay, so here's an interesting one. What is the favorite place you've campaigned so far?
Favorite place so far? We actually met with the Young Republicans in BW3 in Crown Point, and it was very nice to see the young people involved in politics. So I enjoyed speaking with them. I'm
going to say, just since 2020, I have noticed a huge jump in the number of young people that are getting involved, not just with their vote, but actually going to events and speaking, and some even putting their names on the ballot across the country, not just here. But more and more young people are getting involved, and I think that's fantastic, personally.
Exactly.
What makes an ideal candidate in your eyes?
Well, like I said, I have a good job, I have a good family, and what's going on now in my lifetime, I haven't seen it this chaotic, or whatever word you want to describe. So I could have been like most people and just, go to other people's houses, friends' houses, or bar, or whatever. And then you would just complain amongst yourselves about politics, the politicians, etc. So I decided, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I'm going to get in this race. And I'm doing it from, if I wanted a candidate, what would be the ideal candidate? And I am that candidate. Because
so you know what? That's a great answer for you. Yeah, for you, you're the ideal candidate, right?
Well, any candidate that would have those three things.
Okay.
If Frank Mervan believed in term limits, I wouldn't have entered politics.
Okay, so you're happy with the other aspects of Mervan? Okay.
Those are good words in my mouth.
No, I'm just asking because, be careful. These viewers are vicious, man. They will pounce on that.
Thank you for giving me that initiation. I appreciate it.
No, okay. So I have some viewer questions, and I'm going to tell you some of the ones that are asked are they're pretty deep. So is there anything else you want to kind of lay out there before we get into these? Because they're pretty hardcore. I looked at the list as I'm compiling it, and I'm like, that one. I'm glad I'm not answering that one. There's some few that are good. So
I do want to finish up with the money and why there should be term limits.
Okay.
Because a politician, it's found out that the more money they spend, the greater their chance is to get reelected. Mm-hmm. So if they need money, all of a sudden a lobbyist can approach them. Mm-hmm. And a lobbyist would say, I have this type of legislation that I would like you to consider. And by the way, we could raise a certain amount of money for your campaign, for your reelection campaign. Now, if let's say a pharmaceutical executive approached a politician, mm-hmm. and he said, here's a piece of legislation I want you to consider. And by the way, here's $500,000. Mm-hmm. That's illegal, and it should be. But the same pharmaceutical company hires a lobbyist firm. The lobbyist comes and says, we can raise money for it. That's all legal. So what happens is, how does that lobbyist get in front of that politician? He's very highly paid because of all the people in the world, he's the one in front of that politician pushing that piece of legislation. And it's because he's developed relationships through the years with the politicians. So what happens if a politician then decides he's going to retire? Well, he has created many type of relationships with the people in office. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, many of them become lobbyists. And that circle, that vicious circle, has to end. That's why I'm in favor of term limits, and then also the lifetime ban on politicians and their families from becoming lobbyists. I mean, to finalize it, Abraham Lincoln said that democracy is of the people, by the people, for the people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spelling it B-Y. Many of the politicians seem to be spelling it B-U-Y.
I agree with that. I think most of what you said, I think the vast majority of my viewers will agree with you. After the questions, I want to get a little deeper into the donation aspect. And as a regular non-wealthy individual getting into politics, I'm just a regular guy, truck driver, correctional officer. I definitely don't have the kind of money that politicians normally have. How then would I have any chance of getting elected if people don't donate to my campaign? We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, I got some viewer questions. Paul has a question when you're ready. Go ahead and throw it up there, Paul, and I'll fit it in. The first question is, there are lots of political jobs out there. My cat is acting crazy. Ignore any background noise. Sorry. There are lots of positions that you could have run for. Everything from president to town council to senator. Why specifically the U.S. House for your first foray into politics?
That's the one I was most disgusted with.
Okay.
As far as being in Indiana, like I previously said, comparing Illinois to Indiana,
mm-hmm.
I think the Republican-controlled state houses are doing a wonderful job.
Okay.
Issue with Washington, though, Washington and big money. That's the biggest disconnection.
Right.
The voters' perspective is, tell me what the platform is, and I will vote on the platform. Washington's perspective is, I'm going to bombard you with all this information by me spending all this money with my name recognition and just keep repeating my name over and over again so that you're going to vote for me. And when you think about that, all that money that they're spending to do that, does anybody ever do a cost analysis on that? I mean, really, to put it in some numbers, if I was to run a full page ad on Sunday in the Northwest Indiana Times that would reach, Porter Lake and parts of LaPorte County, full page one day, it's $6,300 just for the one day.
Oh yeah.
So think about that. How many people like Northwest Indiana Food Pantry? How many? Just half of that. How much money could you spend that could help the poor out? I mean, you see these politicians have these extravagant black tie dinners.
Oh yeah.
They're raising hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. You think they could say going into that, you know what? Half of the money we get, we're gonna donate to charity. So they make 500,000 rather than $1 million.
Right. Don't get me wrong, man. You and I are on the same page as far as the exorbitant spending by these candidates and the ridiculous black tie functions that they attend, $10,000 a plate dinners. All this stuff is beyond ridiculous for the average voter.
But they talk that they're in favor of the poor. They want to help the poor.
Well, of course, it's all talk. So next question. If elected, your very first vote would be to elect a speaker. Who would you favor for Speaker of the House?
Well, that's a good question. Coming in brand new like that, I would be talking to come out and say, here's what we're going to do. I would talk to the other politicians with the Republican base, listen to what they have to say, and then, make the choice based on that.
Okay, so currently there's no one that you're looking at that's like, I think they'd make a good speaker.
No, I would prefer to talk to my constituents on that.
Okay, all right. Are there any specific committees that you are really passionate about? I really want to be on this committee. I know they ask you for the list and you look at them and you're like, yeah, that one's okay. That one's all right. Are there any that you're like, that one specifically?
Well, many people would point out, since I'm brand new, that, what are you qualified? You've never been in politics. And Frank Mervan is presently on a committee for technology modernization. With my IBM background, I think I would be very well qualified to be on that.
Okay.
Also with ethics, I wouldn't mind being on the ethics committee because I'm somewhat passionate about that.
Okay. I'm going to throw Paul's question in here real quick. He says, did you vote for Trump either in 16 or 20? He actually has two questions.
Well, I have to be honest here as a politician. I actually left it blank. I voted straight Republican, but for the president, I left them blank. The first time I didn't know enough about Trump.
Okay.
It's ironic me saying this, that he didn't have the government background. And here I'm trying to get in. So that would be one. The second was I like Trump's policies, but he's somewhat if he could keep quiet, that would make him one of the best presidents. And I truly believe he would have got reelected if it wasn't for COVID, without question.
So just as kind of, because one of the things I do on this on my show is I play devil's advocate, may or may not fit what I believe. As you can tell, though, from what's in the background, I'm a Trump guy. I agree with you to a degree on the keeping quiet, maybe stay off Twitter a little. However, many people that I've spoken to in my run, both in 2020 and in 22, but that was the big draw for middle America, was the fact that this guy was not quiet. He was saying the things that in many cases we were all thinking.
Absolutely.
And it's like, maybe we needed someone like that to kind of shake up things a little. But I think,
go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I think that's one thing you're going to find especially in the Republican primary. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but one of your biggest competition is a gentleman who's been around for quite a while, Mark Leva, and he's a huge Trump guy, verbatim, right? He's, DJT all the way. So I think you might find a little pushback from the Republican voters if you're not an embrace Trump kind of guy, especially the people who are Republican here, especially the ones who pull our ballots, tend to be very pro-Trump. So just something to kind of, I'm not asking you to change your answers. It's just something I want to make you aware of.
Right. Well, I'll support whoever the Republicans nominate for the president. If it's Trump, I will support Trump. But again, it coming in as being an unknown, maybe there's somebody out there. And I don't want to come across that I'm anti-Trump. I'm not anti-Trump at all.
Right.
Like you said, he was the first one who really came in, and he brought the manufacturing jobs back. And he pointed out, make it in America, make America great again.
Right.
Again, with him talking, I mean, the fact that, he's calling North Korean leader, short little fat guy, rocket man, that's you're walking a fine line there sometimes. So
yeah,
sometimes though, if he could only be quiet, but he can't because he's Trump. So
right.
it goes hand in hand.
Exactly. That's who he is. I'm going to throw, Liz has a question, and that is, if we limit to 2 terms, okay, term limits, let me be perfectly clear. I am 100% in favor of term limits. I just don't know the 2 terms. This is my wife. She asks, how will any rep or senator learn how to effectively do their job? The first term, you're not going to get anything done. And would it be nice if all of this changed? Absolutely. But it's not going to anytime soon. We can work towards changing it, but it's not going to happen overnight. It takes 1 to 2 terms before you even learn your job completely. So how are we going to get anything really done if we limit it to 2 terms?
Okay, I signed, they have a term limit pledge, which I signed, and that would be 3 terms for a House of Representatives, which would be 6 years, 2 terms for a senator, which would be 12 years. Now, in my specific instance, I specifically for myself picked 2 terms, because in my situation, if I went 3 terms, I would qualify for the pension, and I don't think they should get pensions. So I'm showing that I'm not in this for any personal financial gain. That's why I'm going with 2. But to go back to your question, many people would argue would say, oh, you have to be in politics a long time to learn the whole process, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Well, if you look at the current Congress and Senate, they are one of, if not the longest tenured politicians. And where has that gotten us? It's $30 trillion in debt is where it's gotten us. As far as a new person learning this, if it's in 4 years, I think you would work with your politicians that are in Congress to teach you. Also, and I'm not taking their money, but the lobbyists could definitely tell you how things work within Washington, and the staffs would help you out also.
Right.
So the other, just at one point, the part with term limits, though, is that you would get this rotation of more people, newer ideas coming in.
Right.
The government has to be specialists in healthcare, education, technology.
Right. No, look, I get it, man. I'm on your side as far as term limits. I'm just asking, two terms doesn't seem like very long. What if we like this person? What if we actually have someone who's got their butt to Washington and is actually doing what we elected them for? And now we have to get rid of them after 4 years. Again, I play devil's advocate a lot. That's what I do. I've had people push back against any term limits. So selling them on 2, that's going to be kind of hard. But related to you keep mentioning $30 trillion debt, and that's accurate. It's absolutely insane. Do you support Congress ending baseline budgeting?
Yes.
Great. For those who don't know that are watching this, baseline budgeting is where every program gets more money than it did in the previous year, and it's built in. It's the way that it happens, and the only way to get rid of it is a congressional vote. That's the only way to stop it from being raised every single year. It's built in, and so you're in favor of getting rid of baseline budgeting.
What they should be doing is that Washington creates some type of policy, whatever, that gets funded. And nobody ever checks on it, and it just continues to get funded, etc. So first, they should have to, somebody should have to annually or whatever justify why we should be spending. The other thing that they need to do is audit. You need to audit, and ideally, what you should do is you send auditors and software developers together. So while you're doing that, is the auditors are going through to find fraud or waste or what have you. But at the same time, the software developers are there to watch, to learn exactly what the auditors are doing. What's that process they do? So you create a program and you embed it with artificial intelligence. And what that gives you then is a 24 by 365 days a year auditor looking at that. I mean, just to give an example that with COVID, with the small businesses, where they were giving money out in not Chicago, one of the south suburbs, he was actually a politician, and they found out that he claimed 9 different businesses that he would get the 5,000 or 10,000, whatever it was, on these 9 different businesses. Now, if you had software watching that would have pointed it out right away. And it's not complicated. Anybody who has a credit card, if you've ever had a transaction and all of a sudden you get an email or a text that said, hey, we saw this transaction done here. Are you sure this was done by you? Same thing could apply to the politics. Same thing.
Fraud alert. Right? The basic pop-up fraud alert, or the automated call from your bank that's like, hey, we just noticed you bought a computer in Croatia. Was that you? Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But the thing would be that you have to audit and make the people accountable. And if you find that there's, you're spending all this money. So if you find out that the money is not, with audits, you're finding out that the money is not being used properly.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And you either say you give advice how to correct it, then you re-audit, and then if there's then they're gone from the program.
Okay, let me ask you this though, and there are many Republicans, especially the hard R's, that are going to be pulling the R ballot, that believe that something fishy happened in the election of 2020. They believe that computer manipulation happened, and you want to sell them on computers taking over even more not just your vote, but budgeting for these massive congressional policies. I personally understand what you're saying, but how are you going to explain to the average voter that it's not the same thing, that it's an AI program specifically designed for that, that's not going to manipulate the data? How do you plan on conveying that message?
What the software, in my example, what the software is doing, it's automating a process that you would manually have to do it with people. So that's why I'm saying you combine the auditors with the software developers. Otherwise, without the software developers, you could just keep the auditors and have them keep coming and coming and coming. But this is an automated process, and it's the same thing, that you have the auditors with the software doing the exact same job.
Right. But for example, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you have, say, an auditor that is, for lack of a better term, on the take, or a company has approached them and said, look, man, we can make sure you have a really nice vacation with your wife in the Bahamas. All you have to do is change a couple of digits. How do you prevent that? Do you add additional oversight on top of them?
Yes, you would be auditing the software developers then also, right. But you have to have a certain level, and where I'm saying, I'm in favor of term limits and the money. It's still, I'm not anti-politicians. I'm not anti-government at all. You still have to have a certain level of faith in the government here, that that people, if people start saying, well, you change the software accordingly, that will get caught.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's that bad, that's not good at all. But
right. Okay, so it's good stuff, man. Moving on, though, are you in favor of, or would you be willing to push for Congress to bring back the sequester that was repealed by Trump and the Republican Congress?
That's a good question.
Think about it for a little bit. Yeah, think about it for a little bit. A lot of people may not be familiar with that, so it's not a huge one. But again, questions from viewers. What do you think, though, is the number one challenge the United States faces today?
Today, I would think it's the people getting confidence back in the government and the institutions of democracy and capitalism.
Okay. All right. What do you think the number one challenge the world faces is?
Right now, that's what's going on in Ukraine, without question. And
okay.
Where is Putin going? What is his end game?
I have a couple of questions about that down here, but what criteria would have to be met for you to vote yes on a presidential request for an AUMF, the Authorization for Use of Military Force? The same thing that took out General Soleimani, the drone strike. The reason Trump was able to do that is because of the AUMF. That's since been kind of befuddled a little bit, changed up a little bit. President comes to you and says, hey, I want, AUMF. What criteria would have to exist for you to go, yeah, I believe in that, and put a yes on that line?
I would think if Russia attacked NATO, that would be an issue. There's a lot of talk with what's going on now as far as, the no-fly zones, etc. And should we be involved with this accordingly? The 21st century, it was unbelievable for me to actually see on television the tanks rolling in. It's like you're watching the History Channel, in the 1940s, and the Germans are invading. But with today's technology and the way the world is set up economically, it is set up that way. So if something like this would happen, that you could isolate that country, which is what we're trying to do. So we're not firing any weapons at them.
Right.
Yet we're crippling them economically. But the world is purposely for no matter what country would have been doing this. So the other part, though, is, again, what is Putin's end game? I don't know. And part of it is, and this is just me talking, we think with a Western civilization, Western perspective or mindset, where that might be totally different, where it's just power and brute force, and who cares if we're bombing some civilians or not. But that's being shown to the world, and he can try all he wants to deny the protests in the country, but with cell phones, the internet, etc., the videos will get out to the people in Russia, and it's a way of showing the truth, I guess would be it. But what is his end game? Because he's being cornered economically, where the people in Russia are going to feel that dramatically, and then they're going to see how he's just blatantly murdering and destroying the people in Ukraine.
It's horrible. It's horrible. Anytime there's a loss of life, but especially something on this big of a scale, nobody wants war, except apparently, that area. Okay, so I'm gonna throw a couple of names at you. Okay, thumbs up or thumbs down. All right, what you think of them, hero or villain? Right? Ready?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Edward Snowden.
No, down.
Okay, all right. What about Julian Assange?
Down.
Both. Interesting. Okay, very interesting. All right. 2 U.S. Democratic senators recently said that there is very little oversight going on over the NSA right now.
Oh, right. Couldn't hear you. What was it?
2 U.S. Democratic senators recently said there is very little oversight going on over the NSA right now, the National Security Agency. What are your thoughts on the NSA, and would you do anything about creating more oversight over them?
No, I would. And you say these are difficult questions here. I would more or less. I wouldn't want more oversight over them. There has to be a certain level, and again, it goes back to the there has to be some trust you have in the institutions, and I would think the more oversight on that, sometimes the less levels you have there, it might be better in the long run.
Okay. So let me push back on you a little bit and say, oh man, I could go on for hours. Patriot Act, thumbs up or thumbs down?
That's another tough one. If I got to go one way or the other, I'm going to go down.
Okay.
Again, it's good, but they may have gone too far.
Okay.
They've gone too far. As far
would you vote to repeal the Patriot Act, or would you want to amend it?
I would be talking with my fellow Republicans. I would to answer your question, I'd probably amend it somewhat. It wouldn't stop it totally, but it reaches too far.
Okay. Should members of the House and Senate be banned from owning stocks?
Yes. Because it goes back to you shouldn't be in there for your own personal financial gain, and they have too much insider information.
Okay. Should the government have the authority to indefinitely detain an American citizen without a trial if they seem a threat to national security?
Indefinitely, no. I would say no.
Okay. So you think that the trial process is a good thing, and it's what separates us from barbaric countries that lock away people forever. So essentially, a key part of the Patriot Act is a bad thing. Right? Okay. Do you support a full audit of the Federal Reserve?
Yes.
Okay.
Audits always, yeah. And if you want to put software developers in there, go ahead too.
There you go. Yes. Would you support the United States adopting a digital currency?
Adopting it, where that would be the only where we're not using paper anymore. That type.
It would be a fusion. It would be a digital version of the paper currency, probably eventually migrating to almost exclusively digital. That's what they're talking about.
Yes, I could see that. Yes, it wouldn't happen overnight, but definitely it would be a gradual flow. Yes.
Okay. Are you in favor of abolishing the Federal Reserve?
No.
No. Okay. First, do you support the Iran nuclear deal?
That's again an interesting question, especially what's going on now with Russia, where we could get more oil pumped into the world economy. I would say I favor of that. Part of it because the Iranian people, the people in charge are extremely on the elderly side, where the younger people are more, I would think, open to the Western values.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And that would be what I would base it on. Yes.
Okay. So
a lot of it has to do with what's going on with Russia and getting oil. That would be key also.
Okay. That reminds me, actually. So are you familiar with the Budapest, I think it's Accord or something like that? I don't remember the name. I had it written down. Essentially an agreement that that Ukraine, the United States, Great Britain, UK, whatever, and I believe Northern Ireland, an agreement they came to. It's the reason why the Ukraine gave up control of they were actually the third most powerful nuclear nation after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. They had the most nukes. Third, they said, okay, we don't need these nukes. If the United States agrees, US, UK, Northern Ireland agree to protect us if we come under attack. Do you believe that we should uphold our end of that?
I wasn't aware of that agreement.
Yeah, let me get the exact name for you so you can.
It's true. That puts us in a very awkward position because that's what we're saying we should have done if that's what we're agreeing to.
Right. Let me get it. Let me Google it real quick. It's the Budapest Memorandum. Budapest Memorandum. Included security assurances against threats or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of Ukraine, Belarus, and somewhere else. It was done in 1994, and Budapest Memorandum. Take a look at it and drop a comment here once you're fully
interesting because you don't hear about that on the media.
Right, which is very interesting, I find, because you would think, especially with the push for many politicians and public figures pushing for us to help Ukraine. I find it interesting that they haven't brought this up to say, hey, here's a document right here saying that we should actually already be on the ground. Now, let me be very clear. I don't think we should send American lives over there to die in Europe for that.
Well, it's the risk of the escalation too.
Right. Don't get me wrong. If Russia crosses that border and attacks NATO, we are bound by the agreement to assist NATO. Ukraine is not a NATO country yet, which is why Russia's doing this whole thing before they become a NATO country, I guess. At least that's what we're told, right? I don't know his motivation any more than Washington Post or New York Times.
Using an analogy that if they wanted to move into Canada, how would we respond?
Right, exactly. There are actually some really good views, not in support of Putin, but people have said, well, if you just take a moment and stop listening to ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, all of them, right, and just take a moment and look at the actual facts. There was a significant buildup of arms on all around Russia. We actually told Russia we were not accepting new members of NATO when Russia wanted to join NATO. I'm not a Putin apologist. Let me make that perfectly clear.
But it's good you understand and bring out his side of the story. That's
There's a very nuanced thing happening there that I think is getting crushed under the narrative that's being sold to us. But that's a long discussion for another time.
We both, from both of our perspectives, we are not in favor of the actions that he's taking. You're just trying to explain what his perspective might be.
Right. I have no idea what the man's thinking.
Perspective, it does not justify.
No, absolutely not. And ultimately, it's people are losing their lives that shouldn't be. Is really what it comes down to. Yeah. So my last question from the viewer list for you is: should Congress ban all earmarks?
Well, it's always with the all is always one. But
my chair.
If we're going to take the extreme, I'm fiscal conservative, if you haven't picked that up by now. So yes, yes, I would answer. You get rid of all the earmarks. I mean, just look at the infrastructure bill. If it's just for infrastructure, that's one thing. But you're adding all these other earmarks in there accordingly. And just as to give an example really quick about how Washington has lost sight of the numbers and value. When you hear a politician say that there is a program that will be somewhere between 1.9 trillion and 1.2 trillion, somewhere between there, that's $700 billion. Right. So that's like a weatherman saying chance of snow tomorrow, somewhere between 2 inches and of snow. And there's no concept there of the amount of money that they're talking about.
Right. You had just so you know, you had Paul. He was really. The comment says, "I'm really liking what you're offering." Until you didn't want to abolish the Fed. You lost him, I think.
Well,
yeah, it happens. So
it's not just one. It's just one. Whatever.
No, I hear you. So let me ask you this, and this is kind of a more directed question, and I'm curious as to your take. So once again, in the Republican primary, you have a pretty packed field. I think you got seven people running. Okay, some of these people have name recognition.
Yes,
that is going to be very, very hard to counter. It's what we ran into in 2020, and I think you're gonna have that problem again this year. You have somebody who has ran 9 times, I think now, and the name is familiar. People know the name. They go in the voting booth. Oh, I recognize that. And as we're told at campaign school, it's all about name recognition. It's all about the impressions. People have seen this name over and over and over, and a lot of people, when they go in, they don't even think about why they're voting for the person that they're voting for. It's a trigger. It's a comment. Oh, that one, because they recognize the name. How do you personally plan to counter that, to beat that name recognition at the polls?
My strategy is I'm using social media, so it's Facebook, etc., and it's more or less a grassroots movement. I'm the only candidate out of all of them, and I've been with all of them. All nice people. Yeah, I'm the only one who's not in it for any political career gain. I'm the only one in here for term limits. For the lifetime ban on the lie. I'm not in it for financial gain. I'm not in it for a political career, and I'm not in it for making significant amounts of money. I'm in there because I want to point out what is going. I want to go basically to see how this operates and educate the people that this is how the money flow is in Washington. That would be one of the first and foremost things, is to explain how all this money operates, and then basically listen to the people, the businesses, the state representatives, So we're all on the same page from a strategy standpoint. What is it you want from Washington? How do you want us to do the job? It's more listening. It's not top down where Washington says this is this, this is this. It's listening to the people bottom up, just like with education, how we were talking to earlier.
Right. Okay.
But the strategy, without a doubt, is through social media, and that's why I truly appreciate you giving me this platform, because people wouldn't know who I am, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
And the joke I always say, if you ask people, name a Republican in Northwest Indiana whose first name starts with the letters MAR, last name starts with the letter L, and it's 5 letters, it's Mark Leyva. It's not Martin Lucas. So
right.
That's what I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah, it's the sad reality. Look, I'm not going to bash Mark. I think Mark is a good dude. I really do. But he's got that name recognition, and more than likely, unless somebody's able to change the odds, he's going to win the Republican nomination, and then he's going to lose the general. That's my personal opinion, but the statistics back it up.
Yes, but
so,
again, I would think I would have the best chance out of all the candidates to beat Frank, simply because I'm term limits. He's a career politician, and that you have, since a Republican has never won, you have to bring over Democratic voters also.
Right.
And I think the Democratic voters, there are those who will just automatically, straight ticket. But there's quite a few who would favor term limits over career politicians.
Well, the same can be said for independents and Republicans as well. But honestly, we could talk for hours about reaching out to the left and coming together in the middle on policies in order to get elected. But ultimately, you have to win the primary first. Do you think your message is going to resonate with enough Republicans to overcome the Leyva legacy?
Right. Without question, my focus is with the primary, because in a football phrase, you can't get to the Super Bowl until you win the AFC or NFC championship. So
right.
I need people, for those out there listening who like my message with the term limits, the lobbyists, the money, etc., what I need you to do is tell other people about it. I need the name recognition. And with the last name Lucas, I need you to remember Lucas. So my questions would be, who made Star Wars? That was George Lucas. So you remember Lucas. Where did the Colts play? Lucas Oil Stadium. Lucas. Unfortunately, neither of those people are related to me. So it's one way to remember that Lucas with term limits, without question.
Okay, one more question, and then I'm going to give you just a minute or so to wrap everything up and sell people on why you should be their pick. So the average person getting into politics, my wife, for example, running for commissioner, I'm running for state representative. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to fund a campaign. I rely on those small donations from people that believe in me. My campaign for Congress was 99% self-funded, other than a few $100s I got from donations from people. But that's an outlier. Most people the people that really matter, the people that are actually going to get in there and change things, they need the donations. The ones who are career politicians, they don't. I agree with you. They got plenty of money. But the people that have the biggest chance of changing things, the people that can get in there and matter, those are the people I believe that need the donations the most. So are you against any political donations? Are you thinking of outright banning them, or is this just a personal belief system?
In my situation, I've had people approach me where they have wanted to donate to the campaign, and I've said no, because I'm making a stand here. I have to go to this extreme. If I took donations, let's say I would raise $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. That's nothing compared to what the main candidates would gather. So I'm making it just as I said, I would only go 2 terms because I don't believe in the pension.
Mm.
So I'm putting my actions behind my words. So if I were to say there's too much money in politics, and I'm going to take $50,000 to $60,000, which is really insignificant when you think about the amount of money being spent here,
Right.
I'm better off saying zero, and I'm making the statement. I'm saying that too much money, and I'm backing it up with my actions. I'm not in it for any personal financial gain. I'm not in it for any career. I'm there because I'm concerned what's going on in Washington with, as I started out, with democracy and capitalism. Those two institutions are not as strong as they should be. And much of that has to do with what's going on in Washington.
Okay. So I said that was the last question, but this is a follow-up to that. So based on your stance, your choice to not accept any donations, do you believe that you have enough capital to have a serious chance in the general election against someone who can raise millions of dollars?
Yes, the answer, and I'm not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money. I'm a frugal politician.
Okay.
When have those two words been used together? Frugal and politician.
Right.
But I truly believe I have the most valuable platform. And I want to make people aware of that because, as I referenced earlier, there's a big disconnection between Washington and the voters. I'm running on the voter platform, and people want to know what platform is the best. And I truly believe my platform, with the term limits, lifetime ban on myself and my family members from becoming lobbyists, and me not taking any donations, but I'm making a statement saying it's too much. And if people want to raise all this money, fine. Give a certain percentage, though, to charity. Politicians should be giving a certain percentage to charity.
Well, there's a very strict guideline as to what you can do with the donations that are handed. The FEC is very, very particular about what you can do with the money.
You create your own charity, and suddenly the money's going there. No,
yeah, that's we're not Hillary here.
Well,
yeah. Ultimately, I don't know what's going on.
Perfect straight man for you, that one.
Yeah. So, hey man, good luck. Take a minute and kind of tell people why you should be their choice May 3rd on the Republican ballot and why you can win the general.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I entered politics, like I said, because I'm frustrated as far as what's going on in Washington. That's why specifically I entered to be in the U.S. Congress. There's a big disconnect between Washington and the voters. Washington has lost, I don't know what the word is, but it's too much money. It's based upon money and lobbyists. And that cycle has to be broken, and that can be broken with term limits. I'm coming, and I'm the only candidate who is coming from a voter platform, term limits, a lifetime ban on myself and my family members from becoming lobbyists. So I'm saying right up front, I'm not a career politician, and I'm not in this for any personal financial gain. The fact that I'm not accepting any donations, it's just a way of going to an extreme to point out that there's too much money. And the incumbents, as I pointed out, if you ask people, what do you think of politicians? They all get negative ratings, yet they're reelected at over a 90% rate. That's showing that something is broken in the system. I used it before, the term, but Abraham Lincoln did say, as far as democracy, it's of the people, by the people, for the people. I'm spelling by B-Y. Unfortunately, many politicians are spelling it B-U-I. So remember, on May 3rd, vote Lucas. And remember my website, www.votelucas, VOTELUCAS.com. And you could see more as far as what my stances are on several of the issues. So I don't have the money that these other candidates do, but I truly believe I have the best platform. And if this democracy is by the people, those of you who like what I'm having to say, by all means, tell all your friends, family, Go on social media, Facebook, what have you. Spread the word, and then hopefully your friends will like it. They will spread the word accordingly. And it's truly what democracy is supposed to be. You're voting for the people are having an input, not the amount of money the candidate has that is the ultimate winner of the election. Thank you so much for having me.
It was really good having you on, man. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Yeah, again, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
All right. You know what I think? I think having the two different lighting on his side versus my side just really made my lighting go crazy, man. I don't know what's going on. But that aside, I love some of the stuff that he had to say. Some of it, not my thing. Again, me personally, I think anybody is going to have a heck of a time getting rid of the Leyva legacy. We're going to have him on, by the way. Mark Leyva will be on at a later date. We've got it all lined up. I wanted to take a moment and thank a couple of people that have really been instrumental in getting this show back going and lining these things up. Sean Holgram is, and matter of fact, here he is right here. He is content editor, content creator, executive producer. He couldn't decide on a name. So listen, give this guy some love. He is very, very critical towards the success of this show. Same with Manuel. He has been, you know what? It's kind of funny. I don't know if you guys, if you join late, make sure you go to the beginning and listen to the intro. Manuel was nice enough to take some lyrics that I wanted. The music is Tom McDonald, and it is used with permission. So YouTube, don't just Facebook, YouTube, don't mess with me. It's used with permission. I really don't feel like all that. Like always, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And we're going to have these every few days coming up. There's going to be a lot because we got a lot of people to cover. Not to mention, we have local races, we have state races, a whole lot. So stay tuned to Dion's Daily Dose. Make sure you check back frequently. Has anyone else had an issue on Facebook with it given the wrong time? I noticed I use StreamYard to stream, right? And I set the time and all of that's fine. YouTube's fine. But when I go to Facebook, it had the time starting streaming at 1 a.m. A couple of people said that's, due to your time settings. I went in. If you can help me figure this out, please let me know. Otherwise, I guess I'll just stumble through it. Like always, thank you for your support. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.